Next on Imágenes, music, art, and young minority journalists. Saludos, welcome to Imágenes. I'm Miguel Perez. In today's program, we will meet world-renowned composer Raymond Torres Santos. And internationally acclaimed artist Eric GUTTELEWITZ. But first, let's meet some of the journalists of tomorrow. They are the hope of minority communities in dire need of better representation in the newsrooms of America and a better and fairer image in the media. They are participants in the Bergen Records annual Minority Journalism Workshop for high school and college students. And today they are visiting our NJN studios in Trenton.
Well, welcome everybody to NJN. I'm Joe Gazzardo with the Public Relations Department here at NJN. I'm going to show you around the building. What you're standing in front of now is the NJN video wall. It is basically a video sculpture, and a little bit about it. It's entitled PBS 1963 to 2000. It was created by the Korean media artist Namjoon Paik. It is part of NJN's Public Building Art Inclusion Act, which basically means every building built or renovated by the state has to have a bit of it that's dedicated to art. And this is NJN. This, along with the clock tower, is NJN's 1.5% that's dedicated to art. What it does is represents public television through the eyes of Namjoon Paik, from the hieroglyphics and early Korean messages that are written here, all the way through the transistors and the tubes and modern day technology that brings us television. We also have an 1,800 square foot news studio, which you will see. One studio that you will not see is the 900 square foot lottery, state lottery studio. They keep it locked. I've been waiting to get in there myself. They keep it locked to maintain the integrity of the game. Any questions at all about the facility initially? All right, we're going to move right on to the green room. I don't know if any of you know about green rooms or why they're called green rooms, but we're going to go visit NJN's green room, and then we'll move on to some control rooms in the studios. So if you follow me. I know a lot of you are wondering, why is it called green? The walls are pink. In the early days of television, actually, networks across the country used a room which was kept green, actually. The walls were green. And it was for guests that were going to be on the air, that aren't usually on the air. And they would bring them into the green room to calm them down. The green actually had a calming effect on the people. And usually the producers of the television show or the host would come in and talk to the guests and calm them down and tell them they were going to be great and tell them what they were going to be asked. Our green room still works that same way. However, the walls are painted pink. What we do, instead of having green on our walls, is we've decorated it with just a sample of the accolades that NJN's received over the years, because NJN really is its people. This room usually seats about 5, 6, 7, 8 people, all working as a team together to put the program together. The director is like the quarterback. He sits right here. He calls the shots. If he wants camera Q, he says, "Give me camera Q." And he speaks right here to the technical director. Sometimes if we know we don't have time to do a story that they had planned, it's really hectic in here, because while Kent's reading the news in her earpiece, she's hearing someone say, "Kill that story about the airplane," and go right to the live shot of Michael Aaron talking with the governor. And so her mind, she's got to read and think at the same time. It's very difficult, but it's also very rewarding once you do it and practice and learn how to do it well. Another room is audio. They are a part of this whole operation. That is a separate room. It's soundproof, but again, they're part of it. They can hear what's going on in here. That's all the sound. This is all the video. That's all the sound. Through all these blue buttons here, we could send the music to the other side of the world, or we can send it to the other studio, or we can send it anywhere we want. So like in this case, I'm sending it into the studio across the way so that all the talent that's going to be on the set for the show, they have earpieces that they wear, where people talk to them. These are individual channels, okay? And these 8 buttons take this, whatever comes into this channel, let's say it's your voice. They'll take that and send it to 8 different places. So one could be Brazil, one could be the studio next door, one could be, Wawa down the street, anywhere you want it.
The floor director is the liaison between the talent and the control room. The control room needs to know what's going on out here, what's available, what they can do, what they can't do. They also need to communicate to him what's getting ready to happen next. The last thing he wants to do is talk to a camera here when it's this one that's on. So the floor director makes sure that he's looking at the right camera, tells him how much time he has left before he's got to take a break, Any number of things that the control room wants to communicate to him that they can't whisper in his ear, we have to use sign language, so to speak, to get through to him or cue cards.
Yeah, this is the guy who's always counting down. For example, if I have 10 seconds, 5 seconds, if I have to cut it out, I have to stop talking, he'll go like, you know.
Or he's got a little spinach in his tooth. But the most important thing is to have a good attitude, a good work ethic.
This is going to be the student mock trial finals. So basically, we're going to be rolling in videotapes of the students performing their mock trials that we shot previously. There's going to be some discussion from the panel, questions from the audience, and live phone calls from the elementary school kids watching in the schools across New Jersey. You probably see live interactive programming all the time on television. Well, we do that as well.
How many shows do you produce in a month?
You figure you got 20 live news shows, that's right there. You have about 7 or 8 weekly series, you're up to about 25 or 30. I would say we produce somewhere between 30 and 50 either live or videotape shows per year. Programs that if we didn't do them, they simply wouldn't be available.
A lot of the people who have started in news business here have a good history of either radio, television, or print, or all three to get involved into it. You know, when you get into college and into the professional ranks, it's not uncommon to string or freelance for a while until you get some hours under your belt before someone takes a serious look at you. For television, it's not unusual to do cable or similar type of newscasts to get a lot of good tapes and hours to show to editors and to get internships at places like NJN.
The type of format we do is what we call adult contemporaneous. That's what I call it. It's a mixture of light, not light jazz, contemporary jazz, and a mixture of what I call Broadway types of programs, Broadway types of tunes such as artists such as Barbra Streisand, Frank Sinatra. Plus we mix that all up with Lionel Richie, Luther Vandross. It's the only clean shirt I had this morning, all right? All of our cards are here. Our public service announcements are all here. Our CDs are here. We have about at least 300. So we have a wide variety of music, as I mentioned before. Very enjoyable. I suggest that you all do listen to it.
Have you given some thought to the idea of becoming not only a journalist, but a minority journalist? What does that mean to you?
Well, basically, I want to represent my community because usually in my school, many journalists, many articles are written and they always put the bad points about the school and they never represent the good things that we're doing. So I can do that as a journalist and, you know.
Have some of you thought about that whole idea of being able to portray your own community in a more positive light?
I have.
Yes.
I've wanted to, in the political area, portray the Cubans and the crisis going on in Cuba, and hopefully in the future, when it might be a free country, to even be there in Cuba as it is happening.
Yeah. Our cultures are so diverse and they have so much beauty in them that it's mostly portrayed in the media in a negative light. We're always in a negative light. So being a young woman, a young Hispanic woman, I'd like to portray the beauty in every culture, not just mine, but theirs, so that everybody could see the beauty in our culture and just the negative parts.
I want to be a journalist, but I don't consider myself a minority. I take it as an advantage because many other people don't have the ability to speak 2 languages. And so I take that to my advantage, and because the background that I come from, many people aren't exposed to such diversities as to the way I am. And so I take it as an advantage, and I don't think of myself as a minority because I'm not going to keep myself below others. I'm going to go on.
Which ones of you am I going to see on television soon?
Hopefully me.
But can I add to her, me, I'm a editor of my paper. I consider myself not only Hispanic, a Puerto Rican young lady, but to be a journalist of all cultures, I could be of everything. I don't consider myself just one.
Why are you all interested in pursuing a career in journalism?
I love writing.
It's ever-changing. I mean, it's always something new. It's not boring. I can't see myself in a career where I have to sit and do the same thing over and over again.
It keeps you on your feet.
It's not a routine.
You have to keep up ahead of other people because it's competition.
And after spending the last couple of days at the Bergen Record, has your perception of reporters changed?
It always was good.
Is that all the same as you expected it to be?
I don't know if it changed, but I think it made me want to be a journalist more, looking at them and working them work and just seeing how enthused they are for work, being a journalist and everything. So it made me want to be a journalist more.
It seems more exciting.
Yeah,
than I even thought, I watched the 6 o'clock news, but I always thought they got makeup on their faces and just talked. But it's so much more to it than that. It's much more exciting.
Charles,
a lot of attention to detail. I noticed that they rewrite their articles again and again and again until they get it exactly right. Or in college and high school papers, you may just write it once and hand it to the editor.
It's not like working for the high school paper, is it?
No.
I used to think it was like boring, like just to see somebody and it's too much work, but after 2 days, it was like, it's more interesting. You're always on your feet. You're always thinking. It keeps you going and going. It's like you don't have time to yourself, but you just keep going. You know you have to get something, especially on a deadline.
I have a lot of respect for them now, due to the fact that when you had the ethics conversation, they go through a lot to see if this story is right, if it's not. So it's more of a respect now for them, because I know they have a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah, and after this week was incredible, and I got to meet my idol. Mike Selzik. I got to meet Mike Selzik. I used to look, I still look up to him, but now I know that, he's a real person. He's a real person.
Not Olympus anymore.
Yeah.
Well, one of the sessions that we had a press conference that was held specially for you by a group of police chiefs from North Jersey. And we talked about law enforcement, about what cops do. Has your perception of police changed? And that relationship between policemen and newsmen. What do you know now that you didn't know before?
That they work together?
Yeah.
They had all the departments, it has the trust, they work together, not like it's not like a competition. It's not like a competition, like I could get more rest than this one. It's not like that.
Brandon?
They were explaining how on TV they depicted all differently, how the federal agents would always be fighting with the local agents, and the police officials on that day, they explained that it totally was different, and they said that none of the TV shows on today really accurately depict police in real life. Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting.
And the image of cops in the high schools where you come from, and the image that you now have, and police brutality, and the shootings of certain teenagers in certain neighborhoods that we come from, you discussed all of that with them. Did you have any change of mind about what these guys are all about after talking to them?
Well, I think the media depicts them as being very brutalizing a lot of people, when in fact some of them I can tell that they care. But I think the media has that one-sided view of the police from the Rodney King case to the O.J. Simpson case. And it's almost like they blackball them, but some of them are bad. The media takes the few bad people and focuses on them instead of a lot of people who work 9 to 5 and actually work very hard at their job.
Mm-hmm. I understand that some of you have been going through a conflict between what you want to study, some of you want to pursue a career in journalism, but your parents don't want you to do that. And is that a cultural gap or an age gap, or what is it that makes those differences? I understand that for Asian Americans, it might be a cultural gap.
Definitely, especially with my mother. She doesn't want me to go into journalism because she thinks that I'm not going to make it because I am also, I'm Asian and a woman, but also because like journalists is not considered, I guess, professional in the Asian culture. It's more of the good jobs are doctors, lawyers, businessmen, not journalists. And it's really hard because that's what I want to do. That's my dream. But she's my mother and I want to obey her, but also I want to follow my dream, so there's like a conflict always.
Do you think maybe she'll change her mind when she watches this program?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Is that why you're doing this?
No, well, part of it, but of course, but hopefully she'll change her mind. I think more and more she's realizing, because, I tell her that I'm really into it, and she kind of sees me, and the way, she saw me coming in here in the journalism workshop, and she knows that I'm really focused on my goals, and I guess she's more understanding.
Mm-hmm. You guys watched the movie The Paper.
Yes.
And part of the main story that they're covering, there's a whole controversy about whether or not to publish this story that had to do with abuse, of the beating, or the arrest, or the false arrest, I should say, of minority teenagers. And how did you feel about that whole issue and that whole ethics question of whether or not that story should have been published in the paper?
I think having ethics is extremely important. I like the way that movie played out, that issue. I had a class in college about ethics, actually ethics in the media. And, you know, at first everybody thought, well, what's the big deal? What relation does it really have? And when it really comes down to it, you know, it's two or three things that really makes a decision as to whether something goes in a story or not. You know, the morality of it, the business end of it, you know, and the newsworthiness of it. So, you know, from watching that movie, I realized that people in the media are not all just out there to kind of get the news, get the quote. You know, they are concerned too, and sometimes people will go through a lot to make sure the truth does get out to us. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important for people to realize that, you know.
So we're not all sensationalistic hounds?
No, not at all.
There is a fine line in area of ethics, and before this workshop, I myself, who wanted to go into journalism, still made jokes about the media, but I have to say I respect them so much more now, that they go through so much. They word things so that they don't upset one group, and they word things another way so they don't upset another group, in order to make everybody get the truth out, and yet not make anyone upset or anger any other groups.
One of the issues that always comes up when I talk to minority journalism students is the use of the word minority. Some of you may object to that term because, you know, some of us come from high schools where minorities are a majority. And so do you use the word minority in your high school newspapers, or what do you use instead?
Well, I think of myself as Malena. You know, I'm a Cuban, but I don't let it affect my everyday life. I come from a school where I am a complete minority. So in our newspaper, there really is never stories about minorities. But when there is, I know that a lot of them feel like they're very on touchy grounds. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to get offended. You know, I'm Cuban and proud, Hispanic, Latino, whatever the case may be. But they feel like they're walking on eggshells when I think that we're not, you know, we're not going to get hurt. We're not like made of glass. Mm-hmm. So I think they shouldn't be so worried about it. But there are a lot of minority students who don't like the use of the word minority. At JFK, some of you are from JFK. That's been an ongoing debate for quite a few years in Patterson, right?
Yes, it has. And in my school, like, yes, minorities are a majority, but we tend to separate. I mean, there's a Dominican hall, and there's just every race kind of separates. But there are groups, yeah, that really don't care. But
when you want to describe everybody that belongs to a minority, what do you call it?
A lot of people are touchy, so we'll say African Americans, Dominican Americans, that way, because we are touchy about it in my school.
If you have to lump everybody together, is that a problem? What word do you use to lump everybody together?
Just
students. The newspaper in my school, the Spotlight, I mean, it's sometimes hard to, when somebody writes an article, we usually don't write minority articles or something, but when it gets to that point, it's like the editors gets together with the writer and tries to, what do they feel? Is it racist? We read the article over and over again. Make sure it doesn't sound racist. Make sure nobody's gonna get hurt. And we'll try to get someone of that race maybe sometimes, if we could, to try to read it, and we'll get the principal or anybody involved so that if somebody in a higher position reads it, nobody will be offended. And
we're happy to have with us the assistant to the editor of the Bergen Record, Doug Clancy. And first of all, Doug, welcome. And what I'd like to know is why the Bergen Record decided to go into this.
Well, we've been trying to further diversify our newsroom. We want to attract more minorities, reporters and editors. Our region is changing, and this will help us to cover and reflect that change, the changes in our area.
And are we learning anything from the students ourselves?
I think we're learning as much from them as perhaps they've learned from us this week. They've been a wonderful group.
And one of the things that newspapers try to do, of course, is try to see what young readers are looking for. So the Bergen Record has a lot to gain from having them there, because we want to know what the future readers of the Bergen Record are looking for in a newspaper.
Right, that's correct. And I think we're going to probably be signing on a few of them to write for us after this program ends.
And now it's your turn to host.
Hi, my name is Luz Sandoval, a 19-year-old senior from Hackensack High School. And next on Imágenes, the world-renowned artist, Eric GUTTELEWITZ.
I began as a photographer working for my father and I worked for him for 3 years. And I was very good as a photographer. I was able to get the highest honors in Guatemala when I was about 16 years old. So I said it's time to fly to the United States and try to get the best. So then I came and I went to Art Student League. I became a painter, an artist. That's something that never passed through my mind in Guatemala. And also I'm combining photography also, like a fine art photography. I'm doing these big projects of photography. I've been exhibited in Japan in many triennials and biennials exhibition, and I've been very successful in Japan. My last name, which does come from, my grandfather was from Poland, who lives in Mexico, Guatemala, and he died in Israel. When I paint, I start with one painting. I can go in, I usually work with 5 paintings at a time, and sometimes I can work 12 hours in one piece. Sometimes I will work in the 5 pieces, you know. So that's also my colors. You see the colors of my paintings are very, are not real colors, are like a surrealistic colors. You see the waters in my landscape, the waters are yellowish, so it's something that is not real, you know. Sometimes the landscapes, the skies, you will see that are pink, something different, you know. So there is something special on my paintings in the colors, you know, that I do. Working with this project of Rigoberta Menchú, and it seems that, you know, I'm trying to do things that are not really, suppose the portrait that I took in the airplanes from Mexicana, I was able to put it into the canvas and it's like a history of Rigoberta Menchú. She won the Nobel Peace Prize because she did it just to help the human rights in Guatemala, to help all the Indians in Guatemala. I think that's, you know, she's trying like Martin Luther King did here in the United States. Probably the exhibition is going to be in some museums in Newark, New York City, and Mexico City also. I'm a pioneer of the Osaka Triennials in Japan, so that's something very special for the future, because maybe in 30, 40 years, I said I was a pioneer of the Osaka, you know, in 1990, and I was really representing Guatemala for UNICEF, when all over the world, those stamps and the official first day cover also. I did a portrait of my mother in the woods, very close from my house, about 2 minutes walking, a beautiful place. And by the way, that picture was asked for the New York Times to be in the cover of the New York Times, but I did not have a black and white, so we went to another one. But that piece is so beautiful. We used to have a lot of fog in mornings, plenty of them, and such a beautiful place to live. And I did the paintings. You can see that the leaves are like a green, only one kind of green in the fall, and she has a dress like orange, you know, and it's riding a bicycle. It's a very special painting that I will never sell. I will keep it, you know, to remember my mother.
Your colleague did very well. Let's see what you can do.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Concepcion. I'm a 16-year-old junior at Rosa Price High School in Patterson. Next on Images, Imágenes, we will meet a well-known composer, Ramon Torres Santos.
I always had a vision and really a dream when I was a kid. I was exposed to film music, and I wanted to go to Hollywood and study with who I believe was a master at that time, David Rexin. He did the music for Laura in 1944, was a partner for Charles Chaplin, and he was teaching at UCLA. So when I was a kid, I always dreamed in studying with him, and I did. That's how I moved to LA. And after that, it was one success after another, being the winner of the Frank Sinatra Award in jazz arranging and composition, and working with him as an arranger, and then winning the Henry Mancini Award for film scoring, and then working for the studios. I did work or have worked with films such as Vacation, European Vacation, have worked also as a composer for TV series such as Mike Hammer. So for me, it's been a blessing and really a dream that really came through. And today, I'm back in Puerto Rico, where I was born, after years of being abroad away in California. I'm now the chancellor of the Puerto Rico Conservatory of Music, helping others to really make the dream really come true. And now that I'm back in this area, really touching my people in the East Coast, I feel that it's really important that we really work together to make life better. So now that I'm in this area, I've been blessed also to be here in New Jersey today, invited by the New Jersey Chamber Music Society, who commissioned me a work that will be premiered tonight. And it's been a blessing because not only allowed me to come to this area, but also to work with wonderful musicians. And it's been a great experience working with them, rehearsing with them. And in a time where much music is composed by computers and synthesizers, which I love and I do too, it's really great working with human beings. And again, that's what music should be all about, is touching people and getting to their souls, to their hearts.
On behalf of all the journalism students, thank you for having us at NJN.
It's my pleasure. And I'll see you next week on another edition of Images, Imágenes. Hasta pronto.